Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Shouting from the Sidelines. You and me, Luke, today, and also really pleased to have Curtis with us, Curtis Bernard, who is an ex-Foot Tech parent actually, and has since gone on to set up his own boot camps and things like that, which we'll talk about shortly. But we're going to talk specifically about his journey, because he's been in football was in football for a lot of years, played at a high level, and he's since become a football parent. So he's going to talk to us about his experiences and how he's adapted what he learned to now help his daughter flourish at football, because she is flying at the minute, isn't she, by all accounts?
Yeah, she's doing all right, yes.
So, Curtis, before we go on to that, just tell everybody a little bit about you and your football journey.
Yeah, so basically I started playing football very late for a team. I didn't play for a team till I was 12 years old. So I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah. So I just started playing at 12-year-old for Yorkshire amateurs. Most of the people there played from when they were 7, 6. So when I initially went there, they were all really good. You know, they had good coaching, a good setup, and I basically learned to play on the street. Yeah. And yeah, that was my journey really. I started on the street and then just worked my way up. And by the time I got to 16, I signed professional contract, an apprenticeship contract with Barnsley when they were in the Premier League, and then a professional contract after that.
That's mad, because the amount of people that we speak to that are conned into thinking you need to be in an academy from 5 or 6 years old, otherwise you're not going to make it. But then there's so much research and so much evidence of players that have stayed away from that environment, even stayed away from a grassroots team environment, but have been allowed time to play, learn themselves, like you say, on the street. Yeah. And that's helped them from an athletic point of view, but also just because they're allowed to be a bit more creative. Because Nick knows you from times gone by and has seen you play, and he always talks about how you were just doing stuff off the cuff and amazing skills and things like that, which you probably weren't coached. You probably learnt that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I learnt a lot of this on the street. You know, similar to some of your Foot Tech sessions where there might be a lot of people around you on the ball, and you've got to get out of that situation. And I think that's the good thing between, you know, on the street and your coaching is not stopping it and letting young people work out how to get out of that situation. And if you're in the street, you know, there's no one there to coach you to get out of that. You've got to learn how to get around little players, younger players, older players. So there'll be loads of you playing. Yeah.
So you went to Barnsley, and then we were just talking before, weren't we? You were like that close to getting a championship appearance, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I did travel down to Watford to go play, but the manager was also a striker, so he just made me carry the water that day. So I just had to stick with reserve football really at that level. But the year I was there was in the Premiership, so it was really tough. So there was actually in the Premier League then, so it was tough to get an appearance. Yeah.
And that's the thing, innit? You people, again, just people that think just getting into an academy means you've automatically made it. Yeah. And that's it. You can go buy the Ferrari and all that sort of stuff, but it's a different...
No, it's a different world, yeah, totally different, yeah. You know, it is a good thing, don't get me wrong, because you can go and play lower level football as well. So after I finished Barnsley, I played lower level for 15 years, you know, so I always got paid to play football at lower league clubs, you know, which is still enjoyable. You know, you can still have fun and make half a living from that as well.
Yeah, that's it, and it's not always, don't always have to be up there, does it? You can have, like you say, you can make your living from football in other ways. And you were at, and correct me if I'm wrong, were it Bradford Park Avenue, Scarborough, you were at as well?
Yeah, Farsley, Stocksbridge. I was at Stocksbridge just before Jamie Vardy was there, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was there, Jamie Vardy was like in the reserves, and you know, I think he'd just been released from Sheffield Wednesday and stuff, so he was just developing. But he's a perfect example of somebody being sort of, you know, missed off, and he's been at low level clubs and then built his way up to be like, you know, England's #1 striker at times. So
that's it. We try to think like, I think there's a thing about you need to be in an academy or whatever from, like I say, 5, 6 years old, which, you know, in some cases, there's a lot of examples of that being, you know, the path that's been taken. But I think with those kids, you can tell the sort of, I don't like saying people are born with stuff because the coach in me thinks that you can develop it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of kids that are born with something that they've got. And we see it with, like, we're in our hall now where we do our 3 and 4 year old sessions. There's a couple of kids that come to these where we think, we know that child's going to be a good player, but it's mad because they've not been coached before because they can't
very
be.
natural, yeah.
But then you've got, you know, maybe players like yourself and you've had is that have just been in and around it, decent enough players or whatever, but have just kept going, I guess, haven't you?
Yeah. Consistency as well, yeah. It's important. There's consistency is important, and if you've got natural gifts, that's also great. Yeah.
So moving on then to you as a parent. So you came to us. How old was Shilly been?
She was probably about 6.
Yeah.
Probably about 6 or 7.
And you could tell then she just loved it, didn't she? Just loved
Yeah,
football.
yeah, she loved it, yeah.
Straight into it. And then she's obviously progressed and doing really well. There's parents that were talking about her to me the other week, actually, saying that they've seen her play and how good she is and how well she's doing and all that sort of stuff. So tell me about how you've adapted, you know, from your experience of being in that higher level game, how you've adapted your approach to being a parent now.
I think it's a parent, you're always learning, aren't you? You know, I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, and I have another daughter who's older, and she plays tennis, and she used to play tennis quite a high level, and I remember her training was really intense and was trying to make her, you know, get to every session, do loads of tennis training, but it became a bit boring for her. So then I got her involved in football, and I got Talia involved in football. And I think getting them involved in other sports also helps the main sports that they're doing. So I think an approach of not being too focused on just one sport in particular is a real benefit, because if you're doing the same sport, even if you love it, if you're doing it every single day and it's your only sport, and I think that can be sort of a bit detrimental by the time, I don't know, let's say if she was doing it from when she was 6 to when she's like 16, you know, by the time she's 16, I think players or young people, they talk about them being worn out or blown out. I don't think it just means physical, I think it means mental. You know, you could be 6-year-old, and then by the time you get to 16, is that like 10 years of football? So literally from when I was 12 to when I was 17, I've got like, there could be a 15-year-old kid who's played more football than me already, so there could be, you know, it could be overload.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a release, isn't it, sometimes? We've got, I coach a girl, she's been at York City for a little while, and she started playing netball last year. Yeah. And she fell in love with it, and I think it was because she saw it as a release. She takes her football so seriously. She's at York, constantly being assessed. And she got into a netball team at school, and there's almost like had this thing where she's not concerned about getting better at it. She's not concerned about whether she gets picked or not. She's just going and she's playing. And as a result, she's actually got really good at netball as well. And I said to her the other day, I said, you never know, this could flip. It could be that becomes your sport.
100%.
But you won't know that until you try something. And I think you get too many people that think they need to be playing football 7 days a week to get better. Yeah. If they were playing, as in using that word for what it means, then there might be a case for it. So you being an example of that, where you were left to play, you were playing football in the street. Yeah. You didn't have somebody telling you what to do, how to do it. You didn't have a coach assessing you to think, oh, is he good enough to come to this team? All the time. You played, so therefore you learned a little bit more and a bit more of a release. Whereas too many kids now are going to stuff where it's a constant assessment.
Constant, yeah, I agree, yeah. And that's what I think's good with you guys, is that you just let them get on with it as well. And I think as a parent, letting the child get along with the game, even when you're watching the game as well, or they're at the sidelines and stuff. Because if you've got the coach assessing them, you've got 2 different parents shouting at them at the sideline, and then you've got the players telling them where to be, you've got the referee telling them what to do, you've got all sorts going on, and I think it's got to be first like enjoyment and freedom to play, and then the sports side. So my daughter Talia, she actually does athletics. So she actually does athletics more than football. And it's helping her football, funny enough, because it's just helping her be a bit more explosive, a little bit fitter, and it's more enjoyable because she's living a more fulfilled sort of sports life because you're doing different things. So yeah, it is important.
Because you'd said to me, we bumped into each other the other day, and you were saying that her athletics has actually helped her football, mental side and everything else, but also because she'll have moved to 11 aside, won't she? And the fact that she's fit, she can still have that explosive pace over a certain distance or whatever. She's been able to maintain that, where others, they've only played football on those small-sided pitches.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important because young people change in their age, the sizes, how fit they are, but also the pitches are changing. So if you've got a child who's been playing on a 9-a-side pitch and suddenly they go on a men's 11-side pitch, it's a daunting place. So you've got to use different skills then. There's a different skill set. So if you beat your man, you might not be 5 yards away from the goal, you might be 20 yards. So you have to run, or you have to make a different movement, or you might have to pass the long ball. So like, I don't know, like say Steven Gerrard being a perfect example, or Beckham, he might have to spray the ball 50 yards, 60 yards instead of 2 yards. So it's a different skill set. So I think that's important as well.
It makes sense and they'll catch up. Those that go from 7 to 9, 9 to 11. I think that 9 to 11 is it's a big jump that in terms of distance and things. And the kids will catch up, but you've probably given Talia an advantage by getting her involved in other sports or letting her get. She's led it, and she's the one that's made the decision to go into other things. But that will certainly have helped her make that transition quicker, and therefore she's probably stood out a lot more. It must be interesting for you as a parent, because you've got to that point where you've signed a deal with a club in the Premier League at the time. So how do you cope when, like, obviously she's been coached by other people and maybe you don't always agree with what they're telling her or whatever? Or are you just like, do you just keep your mouth shut now? Or how do you deal with that?
I try my best, and I think it's good. So to be honest, I think good advice for parents sometimes is there's a different etiquette in different sports. So if your child was playing tennis, you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to shout, you're not allowed to coach, you're not allowed to talk. And really there's some benefit in that. And in football, the child should be listening to the coach and the coach only. They shouldn't be listening to what the parents saying, what everybody else is telling them to do. They should really just be listening to the coach. And I think stepping away is also a good thing. If you've got parents that are overbearing and are watching the training session, I've seen people with binoculars, I've seen people with camp chairs, at these sort of trials and stuff like this. And then when they finish the session, you can see them having a go at the kids, and just to overload. Sometimes stepping away and walking away is good, because you teach them to be a bit more independent. You're letting them get on with it. Also, the coach doesn't want you there monitoring their every single move, watching them and pressuring them, and just making a bit of a meal of everything. So it could be positive. You've got parents clapping over, going crazy because, they did a pass, and then you've got someone shouting and screaming, abuse at the young person. Sometimes just step away and let them enjoy it with their friends. I think that's a good thing.
I remember coaching Talia, and it was Isaac on it as well. So Isaac, like yourself, had played. He didn't play as high as you, but he played at a high level. He still played now, actually. And again, getting paid to play and everything else. And I think there's always that, especially when a dad or a mum has been involved in high level football. Like the pressure's on a little bit because you want to make sure your sessions are right. Which is that goes without saying, but there is that. But it is interesting getting your thoughts because, somebody that's been coached at the highest level has seen what it takes to make it. There must be times when you're having to bite your lip or whatever, but what we always noticed about Talia was her attitude was just spot on throughout. Not a minute's bother, cracked on regardless. She got knocked down, she got back up. No issues whatsoever. And do you think that's come from your approach with her? Or how would you?
No, I think it's a bit of everything, and it's the person, who they are, but also, yeah, some of it's standing back a bit is good, but also the environment. You're a part of your environment, right? So when she started playing with you guys, she was playing with boys, and I think that's also important to make it inclusive, to play with boys, not to be fearful. So a lot of girls that you'll meet, or parents will say, oh, well, they're playing with boys and all this sort of stuff. And really, I don't think that's inclusive. I think that's making it a fearful option. So they're not learning to socialise with boys, where Talia would see it as a challenge to try and get the ball off the boys, or shoulder barge the boys down, and that sort of thing. I don't understand it's not for everyone, but I think that's another important thing, just making it a good mix.
I think you're right, and any girl that we've coached who has gone on to do something, or has gone on to be one of the better players in their teams and whatever, as they get older, have all played with and against boys.
Yeah.
We always talk a lot on this podcast about a girl called Jasmine. Talia.
Yeah, she's a great player. Yeah.
She come to us year 2, never played football before, and had to be in our mixed groups.
Yeah.
We've had tears, tantrums, everything in between, but she just kept getting back up and going again like Talia. And she's now at a point where I'd be surprised if she carries on as she is. She's got the head for it. I'd be surprised if she didn't play at a high level, because she's superb. But she did that, and her mum got on board with it, her dad got on board with it, and they just let her do it. And what a lot of parents, particularly I've got 2 girls, so I look at this from a parent point of view as well. Like, what would I do with my girls? And I think if my girls get into football and they want to play at an high level, I'd be doing this 100%. I'd be getting them playing mixed. I'd be getting them playing a boys team, girls team, whatever. Mix it. But a lot of these RTCs and places like that play against boys teams. Yeah,
they do. Yeah.
And this is what a lot of parents don't understand, is that if your daughter's not prepared to do that, then they're probably not. They'll normally play sort of a year or 2 below sometimes. And again, Jasmine for Leeds has been doing that. I spoke to a parent the other week that had been another parent had been for trials, and they were really surprised about how physical it was. Yeah. And that's because these girls have been playing against boys in a physical environment. So when they come to play against these trialists that aren't used to that,
it's a different world. Yeah.
And so I think a lot needs to be done. It should be inclusive. It should be, again, we've got daughters. I don't want my daughters growing up to think they're inferior to a boy.
Yeah.
Because when they come to go for jobs, and these sorts of things, like, so straight away they're inferior to this because this person's a male.
Exactly.
So I think it starts at this young age now in sport, where Talia used to not. we used to love it because she used to knock out boys about at our summer camps and stuff like that. Yeah. But she earned their respect.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
She earned their respect, and we have it a lot where they're not being passed, so they've been kicked or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
You've just got to, as a parent, you just got to get on them and say, listen, this is it. This is how it works. But the ones that fight through that, they earn that respect. The boys then are wanting them on their team a lot of the time. Boys are passing to them because they know they're a good player. Yeah. But it don't come from just because they're turning up. They've got to be prepared to do what Talia did.
Yeah, to prove it. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it's good for boys as well.
Yeah.
Because we talk about girls and it's for girls to learn. But I remember taking Talia to sessions and a boy wouldn't even pass the ball to her. And sometimes it still happens if she plays with a boy, and it's because they just have a perception that she's a girl, or if they put a girl on the team, you'll see some boys go, oh God, and they'll have this reaction, and they shouldn't have that reaction. Luckily now, some of them don't, but they've had to gain that respect. But they can't gain that respect if they're not put in them situations.
100%, and exactly that, and it needs to come from not just the coaches, but parents in particular need to get on board with it. And it's a tough one because we've had it recently where one of our girls got upset because the boys weren't passing to her. Now, as a coach, is what do we do in that situation? As a parent, what do we do in that situation? The easiest thing for us as a coach would be to say down to his boy and say, pass to her. But then, what is that doing really? That's telling that these boys have to pass her because she's a girl.
Yeah.
And not because she's good or not because she deserves it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this fine balance of and it doesn't matter whether you're a girl or a boy, you always need to earn respect when you're playing football. You had that in the street,
Yeah,
I had
definitely,
that in the street. I want the best player when I were a kid by a country mile. But I ended up being one of those where everybody wanted on the team because I just used to go around and just harry and tackle and
work hard,
exactly, and earn that respect. And I think if parents of girls and of boys that are maybe joining football late and not that good yet or whatever, that's something massive to promote in them is earn that respect, and you go do that not by moaning instead of being passed to, is go and get the ball, go and shoulder barge a couple of these boys and just show that you're a bit tougher than they think you are, and pretty soon they'll want you on their team.
Definitely, yeah.
And that happened with Talia so many times.
Yeah.
To the point where we were putting her up groups at camps and stuff like that, and she were absolutely bossing it. But yeah, she's a great example along with Jasmine of the benefits of it. Is there anything else that obviously you've had Talia in a girls team for a while now, and she's doing really well. Girls football seems to be on the rise, which is great. At the time of recording, Lionesses won last night 2-1 against Spain through to the semis, and I think there's starting to be more attention on it now generally, which is brilliant, and I think that will only grow now. I'm hoping, particularly if they can get the win at the Euros, that'll be amazing.
That'd be great.
Is there anything that you're seeing with girls football that you feel is positive, or anything that could change from what you've encountered so far?
To be honest, I know this sounds really strange. I wouldn't change too much from women's football. It'd be men's football that I'd make the changes, because looking at it from a different angle, when I watch female football, it's a bit more honest.
Yeah.
So if somebody gets fouled or they get knocked down in women's football, they just sort of get straight back up and get on with it. And they seem to respect the referee a bit more. Whereas men's football, they'll do 7 rolls, they'll be diving, they'll be doing all sorts, and then they're abusing the referee and, confronting him, swearing. And that's a bit more old school, is the women's football, where you get knocked down and you get up. When I used to play, I used to get fouled constantly. I just used to get up because it sends a message to your opponent that it doesn't matter what you do to me, I'm just going to get up and get on with it. Whereas the men's, it's just becoming a bit farcical with stuff. So women's football is great. It's honest. It's a bit more innocent and sort of like how the game started, I think. So I wouldn't change too much about women's football.
It's funny you make that point, because a friend of mine, he put something on Facebook this morning he said exactly that. He said it's been refreshing to watch England and women's football because there's none of that.
There's none of it.
It's a lot of honesty. It's the game's a bit more fluid as a result. It's not stop-start, roll about for 10 minutes, get physios on and all that for no reason. And it's you're right, it's been great. And is there anything that you see? One thing that I think frustrates me a little bit more at the junior level for girls football is the sort of trial system that they have. And I think things are changing slightly with these RTCs and stuff. And it seems to be that every summer, every team has trials. Yeah. And then girls are picked.
And girls are let go,
And whereas the boys is, if we think a boy's good enough, we can send them to Leeds.
You can send them somewhere,
we could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
What frustrates me is that girls have to wait until the summer, and you know what trials can be like. You don't always get an accurate picture of them, and that frustrates me a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that's massive within girls football, and I think if your daughter's really good and she's going to be a really good footballer and she doesn't get in, I wouldn't worry too much about her not getting into somewhere, because girls football is at a different stage to the men's, unfortunately, where you just said you could go to a trial, someone will scout them, they'll sign them up. When you have to go to these trials, they're a bit, I don't know, I don't totally agree with them. So I'll give you an example. So Talia is just doing athletics and she's at grassroots football, and she got selected to go to these England trials through school, this England Lioness thing. So we took her down, and we thought there'd just be Sunday grassroots kids there, but it wasn't. there was all kids from York, Leeds United, Sheffield United, Doncaster, Bradford, all at proper academies, and there was only about 3 other girls in the age group who were just from grassroots football. So like Tally just went down in a Michael Jordan top. All the others had these full kits and full academy outfits, and I was thinking maybe they'll just go with the academy kids, you know, to be spotted. But not being biased, I just watched a few sessions and Tally did really well, and she got a response back that England Lionesses want to see her and want to come and have a look at her. Like, you know, said congratulations, she's good enough, would like to look at her. However, she's still not even at an academy club. And I've had a lot of other coaches saying, oh, you need to get her down to Leeds, you need to get her here, you need to get her there, you need to get her to Doncaster, you need to get her to Barnsley, you need to get her to Hull. And I just think, like, she doesn't really need to go travel the other side of the earth to go play girls football. She's happy to do athletics and to play football locally. If it happens when they're older, that's fine. Or if there's a trial that's near, that's fine. But certainly not going to be going to the other side of the moon just to get to sign for Barnsley FC or something like that. It's about them enjoying it. You know, they could get to 16 and wants to go into athletics or something else. So,
and I think it is only getting better, girls football, women's football, and I think there are a lot of changes. I need to read up on it a little bit more. There are a lot of changes to the Rtc method, and I think it's going to be more of a you know, what you call a traditional academy system. I think moving forward, I think a lot of girls are going to get released in the next season or two, and then they're going to change this format. But I don't know what it means yet for everybody. But I think that's the message to a lot of parents, is that you don't always need to rush, do you?
No, you don't. You don't need to rush them into these things, because the levels, there's not much different in grassroots football for some of these girls to academies.
And there is that, like, the travel thing. I think when it sounds good, doesn't it? It sounds good in principle. Like, I'm in Hull, I'm in Sheffield, but logistically.
Yeah, it's taking that time out as well. So, like, if they're going to do 3-4 hours training a week, and they've got to go, depending where you live, if you've got to go to Doncaster or somewhere like that, or York, at a young age, is it worth it? When they get a bit older, maybe it's worth it because you've got the time, you've got your education, you've got school, you've got other things to do. Is it worth going that far, you know, to do that? When there's somewhere local that can train, they could be at Foot Tech, there's loads of different places they could be at, you know. Why do they have to do that?
Because there is a thing. The more we sort of look at the players, boys and girls, that have gone on to do well, do I think they would have? Do I think they're any better for going to an academy early? No. And vice versa. I think if you're good enough, you'll be good enough. And there is the thing about playing against better players might make you a better player, stuff like that. I get that. But if playing against better players means that you have to travel an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back 3 or 4 times a week, you're just going to be tired. You're going to be burnt out after a while, and you're probably going to stop enjoying it, and then you're probably going to quit anyway. Or the child's going to quit anyway. So it's just a case of maybe being led by them a little bit. If they want to do it and they're 100% committed to it,
that's great. But you can't be, as a parent, trying to lead that constantly. I think you've just got to. It's just a balancing act, in it. You know. I think that's the good thing. Like, you know, instead of going to an academy all the time, you know, if you're doing another thing, you like say you might be doing netball, basketball, athletics, tennis, boxing, whatever you're doing, it's just more fulfilling. So you look forward to all of them more, you know, instead of just focusing every day on one specific thing.
It's hard, isn't it, when you've got kids that, we have a lot of parents that do want to get them involved in other sports, but they might be obsessed with football. And that's maybe, we've spoke about that on other episodes of the podcast, about what you can maybe do to get them involved in multi-sport. But the base of it all is you just try to promote it, particularly from an early age, before they do start obsessing over a certain sport. It's just give them a variety of things to get involved in, and it does. The best sports, the best players that we've had have all been the best movers.
Yeah, 100%.
All of them.
100%, yeah. It's like, there's a lad, he's really good, he plays for Leeds. It's called Isaac, and he does street dance.
Oh, right,
And he's unbelievable. But you can see that a lot of it's from his dancing. And, you know, if you look at Brazilian footballers and stuff, Spanish, they all do salsa. It's all in the background. I'm not saying they all do it, but it's the footwork. And you never were a good dancer, were you? So, you know, that might be...
I was just going to say, what did you do?
Yeah.
Bit of ballet.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Rio Ferdinand spoke about ballet.
Yeah.
Because he said he did it, and obviously he's from Peckham.
Yeah.
So he said he had to just keep everything a secret.
Yeah.
Because if my mates know we're doing ballet, so that's it. But he said it helped him massively.
No, it's true. It's for all sports. It's so like even boxing. So I've done quite a bit of boxing since I left Barnsley. I've sparred. I've done a lot of boxing training, but your footwork's really important in boxing. And a lot of boxers, you know, some of them are really good movers. Yeah. I know it sounds really, really weird to some people who don't maybe not know about boxing, but it's your footwork. Yeah. They talk about Tyson Fury, and you know he's a big guy, but it's his footwork that helps him move about. And you know he's always dancing and laughing about, isn't he? He's always dancing and stuff. So you could have someone who's a bit more sort of muscular and robotic like Anthony Joshua, but he can't move like Tyson Fury.
Yeah. It's the same with most sports. They have this agility, this balance, this coordination. You think about football's not an easy sport when you think about it, because it's not just you. You're not controlling your own body. You've got to control a moving object as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
The kids that can move better seem to be the ones that excel a little bit more, and the kids that move better have been the ones that have been exposed to a variety of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just, I think the research is there now, and I know there are academies out there that are. I think Ajax did it a lot as well. We spoke about that, but they had a multi-sport element to their curriculum because they saw the benefits of it. Not having them playing football every single day. Yeah. We're coming to the end now, and I wanted you to be able to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now, because I think it's great. I think I'll let you tell us all about it, but the fact that you're doing your boot camps now, looking at fitness, but it's not just adults, is it? It's going back to the movement stuff, it's the kids as well.
Yeah, it's young people as well.
So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so basically, I've got an outdoor boot camp as well, an indoor and outdoor boot camp for adults, and it's mixed, men and women. And I also run kids sessions as well. So the kids boot camp is mixed abilities from 10 years old up to 15. And basically the session involves bits of boxing, bits of agility movement, strength training, fun and games, a lot of stuff based on your own body weight as well. So you don't want kids lifting big heavy weights. So we'll do a lot of sort of body weight exercises like bear crawling, battle ropes, stuff with tyres and stuff, press ups, sit ups, that sort of thing. But it's also about building your confidence as well. So a lot of young people who are involved in sports, or maybe they're not involved in sports, if you go to, let's say if you go to be a footballer or a tennis player or something, you usually are trying to get into a team. So you have to be better than that person to get in. So you're constantly trying to upskill to get into the team. Whereas with the boot camp, you don't have to be good at it. You just have to participate in it and get fitter and enjoy it and build your confidence. Which is also different for young people. There's no pressure on them. They just enjoy it, and that's it basically.
It's good, and I think if we've learnt anything over the last couple of years of what's going on in the world, it's you want healthy kids, don't you? You want healthy, active kids, and you want children that are going to carry on with their fitness into adulthood.
Exactly,
regardless of whether you're a pro footballer or...
Exactly, because that's also the flip side of it. A lot of young people, they can especially girls, but they can be playing football from this young age to 16, and then as soon as college starts or sixth form or wherever they're going to go, they can stop playing in these teams, or there's not as many opportunities. What do they do then? If there's no teams, probably start going to a gym or some sort of training complex or something like that. You might get involved in CrossFit or some of the sort of training, but if you've had that experience from when you're younger, you can adapt into that a lot easier. I go to the gym and you see people who don't know what they're doing. They're pulling bars over their head, they're falling over, you know. So it's good to start that when you're younger as well.
Everybody goes to a gym. I don't think anybody feels disappointed with themselves when they've been to a gym session after a gym. Everybody feels better.
Yeah,
they?
definitely,
like, there's a science behind it, you know, you've got your dopamine hit and all that sort of stuff, and that's for adults, but it's equally important for kids.
Of course it
you know,
is,
if you can leave people sweating and smiling,
100%.
That's what it's about. And I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of some kids aren't, in inverted commas, sporty and don't want to get involved in a team or some sort of competitive sport, but this is a way of them having that active lifestyle, a little bit of, you know, maybe self-discipline, some goals they're going to set themselves in terms of fitness and whatever else, but just to make sure they're healthy and just to make sure their head's right, as well as the physical self. But equally, you know, if you've got kids out there that are involved in sport, doing something like this ticks that box in terms of different movements
100%,
and fitness, and getting them more confident in the bodies and being able to move the bodies in different ways. So it'd be definitely something, if I were a parent, that I'd be looking at, because I think it is a bit of a release, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
45 minutes.
Exactly,
you know, they're just on it, aren't they? And they can't think about anything else.
And the parent can't put any pressure on you then, you know. How many goals did you score today? None, you know.
So how many burpees did you do?
Yeah, 1,000,
Where can people find more info about that, Chris?
So we're on Instagram, so it's Champion Boot Camps. It's like a yellow logo, and there's a website as well. So that's www.championbootcamps.co.uk. There's a website there, you can have a look. There's a bit about the children's bit on there.
For anybody listening, I'll tag Curtis and the website and stuff in the notes on the podcast, and also online as well, so on social, so people can find out where you are. But thanks for coming in, mate.
No, thanks, nice one. Great stuff, it's been great.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back soon.